Hi, everyone. Welcome to our very first episode today about diversity. My name is Caio Calado. I'm going to be the host of this session, and I'm going to be here with you during all these events. And before we start and I introduce all the speakers to everyone, I would like to say welcome, everyone. I can see that we have plenty people out there. I'm curious to see where you are speaking from. You can let us know where you are, if you are in the US, in Brazil, or in Netherlands. I can see there are some people from there. And I'm curious to see where everybody is. And we can start this conversation. So this is the very first. So we have someone from Oakland, Netherlands, São Paulo, the United Kingdom, Florida, San Jose. Yeah, we have many people around the globe. So this is going to be interesting, and it's going to be a really international event. So welcome to our very first episode about diversity, equity, and inclusion in conversational design. As I said, my name is Caio Calado. I'm speaking to you from São Paulo, Brazil. That's why I have this accent, and I am a Brazilian per se, but today we have many international guests from different parts of the globe. Before we start, there are some things that I would like to say. First, diversity is a really broad word, is a really broad concept. And if we're going to talk about diversity, we can explore many different angles. So just would like to acknowledge this. We could be speaking here about gender, culture, sexual orientation, political views. I mean, many different things. All these can be related to diversity. We have many diverse way of seeing things and deal with things. And another important thing to say is that diversity, equity, and inclusion, they can sound the same, but they're kind of different. And this is also depends where you are in your culture. But in general, when we talk about diversity, we would like to say that diversity is about the differences of everyone. Equity is about the fair and equitable access to opportunity. And inclusion is basically the energy or the actions that we take to create an environment that respects everyone and our value. So on this event, we would like to invite you to have these conversations and to have an open way to share and to learn this with us. And to help me to do this, I would like to share with you some event guidelines. First, we would ask you to help us to make a really inclusive, respectful, and open experience for everyone. We are humans first, so we are here to learn and share. So you can help us to on this journey and share your comments, questions, or anything they'd like to add to the conversation. Feel free to use the live chat functionality. As I can see, there are many people out there from many different countries and many different places around the globe. So feel free to send a message. We're going to see this live. And lastly, you can find the speakers and you on the YouTube description, you can add them and maybe send a message to follow up or maybe have another conversation in another opportunity. Another thing, this is a call to action for you. You can be an ally. Everyone here is an ally. We would like to help everybody to have conversations about this. We recognize that some places we should have more people speaking. So this is the very first time that we're doing something like this. In the future, if you'd like to collaborate and be here with us also, please let us know. You can be an ally too and help others to raise their voice. And so to kick it off this event, the agenda today is going to be basically divided into 4 different sessions. The very first part, we're going to have an intro with the speakers. Then we're going to have an open conversation roundtable. And then we're going to have a Q&A session with the questions that you sent in the chat. And then we can finish with some closing thoughts from the speakers. Okay, so I'm going to stop speaking. I think I speak too much. My name in Portuguese would be funny for this situation because calados means shut up. But since you're not Brazilian, you cannot get that joke, I would say. So to introduce the speakers, I will start with Carmen. with the letter C. Carmen's here with us. Hi, Carmen.
Hello, good evening from Berlin, Germany. How are you, Kai?
I'm good. How are things over there?
Well, I am supposed to be in a beer garden right now because there is not hard lockdown anymore for several weeks. Nice summer, a little bit rainy. Life's just going on. Just that.
So let's invite our second speaker here, Esha. Hi, Esha.
Hey, Kaio. Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We've had a couple of weeks of rain and sun is finally breaking through, so I think this is going to be a good summer.
Where are you?
I am in Leiden, the Netherlands.
Leiden. Okay.
Yes.
Did I pronounce correctly? Leiden?
Oh, yes, you did. Definitely.
Okay. All right. And lastly, but not least, we have Tara. Hi, Tara.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
I guess I already found out.
Where are you from? Or where are you based right now?
I'm from the United States, from California, but I'm here now in Mexico City, where it is in the thick of rainy season. I have a dog, so pretty much everything I own is covered in mud persistently. It's great.
So before we start with the questions, I would like to ask the audience if you could hear everyone's okay. I think the audio is good for everyone, but before I joined here, we were having some audio issues, right? So I'm gonna wait 1 minute to see if someone says something. I think everybody can hear everybody. Yes. All right, so I think we're good to go. Yes. Yep, perfect. All right, we are all good. So to start this event, we have some questions here. And again, we would like to make this really interactive and ask the audience to share the questions with us. And the very first question to kick it off this panel is going to be about, when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation design, what's the role of gender? Can you help me to answer this question? I'm going to start with Tara, since she was the last one. Can I start with you?
Oh, of course. Love talking about gender. Yeah, by the way, I'm very, very happy to be here. I've spent about 9 years in the conversation design space, and it's been so cool to see the evolution of the conversation from when I started to now. So I'm really happy to hear the other panelists and the questions that are coming from y'all, from my community. So thank you so much. To kind of characterize my responses, I work pretty exclusively in healthcare and make tools for challenging moments in health journeys, like chronic condition support, post-hospitalization, et cetera. So in terms of the role of gender in conversation design, I mean, it's huge because gender is huge, you know. Obviously, it's something that we have created as a social construct, but it's enormously powerful, and we've all been picking up ideas about gender since we could first perceive. So, I mean, at work, it plays into who is even at the table making these projects, who has the power, what are the kind of invisible structures operating around us, and the decisions we make. As I think a lot of us are aware of that report that was there about how some of our most famous virtual assistants respond to things like sexual harassment and innuendos. It's alive there. It's part of the power of conversation is what it can do and how it can kind of prime people to think and talk about conversations. And sometimes that can be used for good, and other times it can really uphold problematic structures. So yeah, I think I would also, I also think about the role of gender in terms of the stakes and the spectrum of stakes that it's on. I think sometimes we think about gender as like a voice or a name that we give to our bots. And even seemingly small decisions about gender tap into that whole body of social structure that on the other end of the spectrum is gender violence, especially against women and trans people, and especially trans women. And so I think it's everywhere. We're breathing it, and to think that we can step outside of it or create these like totally genderless things is a tall order, because we're humans and we're used to interpreting gender in pretty much everything around us, to the detriment of a lot of things as well.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question in between? Because Tara, you briefly touched upon the question of stakes. and you named a couple of them, but what are the highest stakes at the moment in our industry when it concerns gender?
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of like, you know, how microaggressions connect to the stakes of just like literally your ability to be alive and thrive. I think about that a lot in healthcare, like the way that we're designing things, we're designing tools for people's literal well-being. And we're also coaching people about how to interact with everything, and specifically about gender and different gender presentations. And I think that, you know, it's hard not to connect the types of things that we see in terms of the responses of our gendered bots, coaching people to respond a certain way to sexual harassment, to flirtation. Mm-hmm. It teaches people how to be in the world, and I think it's kind of underpinning why sometimes like women and trans women and all these gender variant people are harmed and denied rights to health and wellness and literally like being alive and people caring. So that's what I mean when I say stakes.
Yeah, let's change a little bit the angle. Maybe we can explore this more in the future or in a few moments. I would like to address a question to Carmen, so we can focus a different kind of angle, which are related to the current trends, industry trends when it comes to creating female embodied software agents. Carmen, do you have an answer for this? What are the main current industry trends when it comes to creating female embodied software agents?
Oh, well, it's actually a very broad question, but if we take the whole discussion outside what is conversational AI, and we think that every time that we create a persona, and especially a persona that is embodied in a female body, for a software agent, we are kind of making these kind of decisions that Tara pointed before. We are going from the spectrum at first deciding if it is a female or a male, killing first all the possibilities that there are in the middle. That being said, I have like my own selections of female embodied conversational agents, and for me the most salient ones are the 3D generated social media influencers. I don't know if you are familiar with the image of Lil Miquela that has actually 3 million of followers in Instagram. Mm-hmm. Have also artifacts like very high-end help desk conversational agents that are embodied in the shape of a woman and can understand human gesture and also react to it. And we have also sex robots that's also give sex as a service. And inside of the gaming industry, we have all of these artificial reality female software agents. So if we think about what is the goal of the embodiment, why we are giving them a female figure, well, for the part of the basically the sex robots and the artificial reality figure is related with sexual objectification, and in the case of the embodied conversational agents that are used for customer care, that is the part of the industry that touches more, and currently I'm working in the automation of call center. They are a professional way of deploying emotional care for customer service, because culturally in our societies, works that require to be empathic and emotional, basically to cope well with other people's emotions, are made by women. So this is the reason that they are giving them a female image. And I think that this is actually something that we don't think about when we assign the sex to the conversational agent or to the software, to the piece of software in general. We go into the direction to think that, okay, we need a persona for it, but we don't stop to think about what is the meaning that we are assigning in our societies to the job in relationship with the gender. So yeah, unfortunately, to wrap up, I think that the current industry trends are related with an hypersexualized image of women, attentive image of women, and sexualization.
Yeah, so we can go to so many directions on this discussion. There is a a question and comment by Talia. She was just like, are there bots that are influencers? I can name you some of them. In Brazil, there is one big brand. It's called Magazine Luiza. It's a brand persona, but they created like a 3D version of it. And last year, due to the pandemic, they figured out a way to have like a person using like a suit and acting like the robot. And if you Google for Magazine Luiza, is a big brand in Brazil. Just to give you like a perspective, it's like a Brazilian, it's in between Best Buy and Amazon version of it. But the leadership, Luiza, she's a really well-known female leader and entrepreneur in Brazil. Maybe we can explore, I can tell you some of the things that she did to advocate for minorities. Yeah, that's the place, Magazine Luiza. And there are some Brazilians here, so please help me to explain them what it is. But it's a huge brand, and they're trying to bring this female version to the brand. I wonder.
I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't know about it, but certainly I will Google for it and add it into my collection. But actually, I love to collect and really analyze what is the meaning, and actually why they become so famous.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Magazine Luiza has a TikTok account with millions of followers, and they do live conversing. And she has like a YouTube channel. It's basically Magazine Luiza is everything for the Magazine Luiza brand. It's even like a contact on WhatsApp that you can send a message, and she sometimes can send you like birthday messages or something like this. Yeah.
Wow. I have my bedtime reading ready. This is new to me.
Yeah.
What do you think, Esha and Tara, about this question? Do you have a take on it?
Ooh, I think that we're clearly steering away from having a typical female embodiment or the gender clues when designing software agents. At least it's something that I'm very passionate about. Unless it serves a very, very clear cause. There are a couple of cases that Carmen also already touched upon that indeed require almost a female embodiment, but I'd rather stay away from it. Not sure what Tara thinks about that.
Yeah, I think I'm learning a lot from this conversation too. So a lot of it I'm learning. What I'm seeing in the trends are kind of this rudimentary beginning, just kind of the starting to want to reckon with these things and understanding of the stakes. I am starting to see some things, like people are pushing to have more gender diversity in terms of the voices, which feels like, maybe not the most comprehensive solution when we think about the actual issues at hand. But yeah, those are the things I've been noticing.
Yeah, I was thinking now about Apple's announcement that it's a really recent thing about changing the default voice of Siri. Are you familiar with this new update?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the audience is familiar. So until recently, Siri has about 10 years now, and until last year, to be honest, it wasn't possible for you to pick a voice when you first talked to Siri. It always used to be female voice. And yeah, last year they changed the process of you setting up Siri, and now you have the option to pick the type of voice that you would like to hear from Siri. And many people did not maybe think about that before because that was so by default, right? It's there. We just don't think about it. And we would need to actively change the voice of Siri. And now, it's just small differences that can make a big difference. With that said, I wonder if we can go to the next question. And also, I would like to invite the public and to make comments and if us, the speakers, would like to address a particular question, just let me know. We can just show up someone's comment. Just let me know that whoever said and the time, so I can just bring it to the screen. So the next question is about how did we get here? Like, how did things come to be this way? Gender in conversation design, female assistants. We were talking about this, where we are and how we got here. Can we start with you, Esha? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I think that Tara and Carmen also already named a couple of very important points. What we have to deal with is a pre-existing bias at tail all this time. We design things a certain ways because we're having these virtual assistants, these digital assistants, and the assistant has always been qualified as female. It has to be submissive and helpful, which are quality traits that are usually described to being female. It's scientifically proven that people respond better to those traits than to, for example, a male voice, which can be decisive and authoritative, and those are not qualities that one would want, allegedly, in an assistant. And recently, it's not a discovery, but we are gathering more awareness on how hurtful that can be, because the people we design this for can also be left out with these gender biases in the back of our head. So we are slowly moving away from having this bias, having these gender stereotypes, which are actually hurtful, and moving towards a more inclusive persona or design. Is it really quiet, or is it just me?
No.
We're soaking it in, Esha.
That's good. That's good.
By the way, I live in downtown, so sometimes, like now, you can hear an ambulance, right?
Yes.
We'll be having soundboards, Gallo. We'll have, yeah. I think Mexico City can beat you on the street sounds. We'll see.
All right, I think it passed now. So, Tara, would you like to add something like this on this question?
I mean, not really. I think Esha nailed it. It's just a reflection of the society that we are and who created it. So I think she got it.
I noticed that we have some questions here from the audience. Would you like to take one before we move to the next one? Tara?
I do. I think that what Freeman Jackson has proposed in terms of you not hearing African-American male or female voices is also something that should be elevated. I mean, just as there are marginalized genders and ideas about genders, we also ascribe race to voice that I'm sure many of us are aware of when we try and do things on the phone, even when someone can't see us. So I think they're subject to the similar and intersecting types of exactly what we're talking about today, and that should be at the top of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if someone has another question. So before we go that, again, I would like to invite everyone to, leave a question or share with us any comments so we can add here. The next question that I have, I'm going to address to you, Tara, so we can follow up with this, which is about what is missing from the conversation when we talk about gender in conversation design.
Yeah, I think what I wish I heard more is the respect for the nuance behind what we say when we talk about gender. Gender is not a voice and it is not a name. It is hugely complicated and it's so multifaceted. And it's also something that we make up. We uphold it and we can undo it. I wish I heard people thinking less about like, how do we check the boxes to make a design that is inclusive, and looking the mirror back on ourselves. Don't think you can make an inclusive product if you haven't done any work within yourself. You can't. I also wish that we were talking more about, I think it's really important to have voices at the table that represent different marginalized identities, and that's an important, really great first step. But I think it's also important to recognize all the forces that happened before you got here today. Just like we are seeing the tip of the iceberg with who is hired and who is at the table. What is all the infrastructure underground? You know, I've been a gender minority in the workforce before, but I think nowhere did I notice this more powerfully than being the only female instructor at a mixed martial arts gym. I was there, I had a voice, but did I see in myself trying to mold to that culture? Yes. Like, was it hard to speak up? Yes. Did, stuff still happen that I wish hadn't, because, there were all these other forces kind of that I was standing on top of from just centuries. So I think I wish that we could pull it apart and see it as huge and complex, and look to ourselves more instead of boxes to check about what to do to make a design inclusive. That's for gender and anything.
Yeah, I mean, there are different takes on this. Maybe there are some things that we should be more. I think this is why we should have these like conversations, to be more aware of it. Like sometimes hear different stories or hear different perspectives might help us to see like things differently. Oh, I never thought about this on this particular way. And there are so many invisible walls that sometimes is like, if you can say no for something, it's like you're a privileged person. Sometimes we can just do not think about this. Oh my gosh, there are some people that they struggle with this, and some things that might sound small for some other people, these can be like a huge wall, and this can be like a big problem. And I think it's important for everyone to, thinking about these invisible walls and thinking about also the invisible bridges. Sometimes we can just give like a recommendation for someone, help this person to find a job, or connect one person to another person, like a minority to like a company, and help them to get a position or something like this. And sometimes we just don't think about these invisible walls, or we just don't see it. And sometimes we just don't see it because we don't understand them, but they're there. In Brazil, Esha, you'd like to say something?
No. You said something about the invisible walls and being able to understand them. And I had the thought about bringing inclusivity to the table and checking the boxes. You can ask for someone's perspective from everyone and anyone from any walk of life, but you would never be able to actually understand it. You would be able to accept it, but you've never lived that life. So checking the boxes and hearing those perspectives is simply not enough. You have to bring those views to the actual table to be as inclusive as you wish to be. So I think it's really interesting that you said this.
Yes, and taking upon that, I think that's what is really missing in the discussion, is to make it political, really. So if we take it back to the previous question, how did it came to be this way? Well, from the case of Germany, is very understandable, because women in Germany earns on average 19% less than men. The salary gap in Germany is just huge. Women in Germany are in a rarity in leadership positions, in business, in culture, and in policy, in the political arena as well. So I think that's from the perspective of the European Union. I think it's very important that, as we have very clear policies in privacy and transparency of a system by design, this would be taking also to the political arena. And I would really like to see new actors in the market, for example, philosophers thinking about ethics of AI. Does it make sense, for example, to create sets robots that are completely controlled by applications that are embodied in a female agent, and you can change the mood and on demand, and to make them sexually available or not? Is this ethical? And I think that needs political decisions and legislation, and that is completely out of the discussion right now. Regarding diversity policies in tech itself, I'm very much as a fan of quotes, especially for women in tech. I would like to see tech companies to hire as much women as men, and to be also diversity and inclusive, diverse and inclusive enough for different minorities. So if we don't start from the bottom and we don't shape our societies with the proper legislation, and also our organization with the proper reorganization of the working force, and also giving them more visibility as minorities, we are not going to be able to change the rest.
Yeah. Remember when I told you about Magazine Luiza? I told her that she has a wonderful leadership. So last year she got in a, so this is going to be complex. I'm going to try to make really short. But last year in Brazil, because of the Black Lives Matter movement in the US, some things happening in Brazil also. And at the time, a big bank in Brazil, one of the leadership, which she was talking about the struggle of hiring minorities. And she said, like, she made a side comment in a live event, which was like, they're not well qualified. That's why we cannot hire them. And everybody was in shock. Like, what are you talking about? There's so many qualified people out there. Maybe you're just not going to the right places. And then in Brazil, many companies starting to start a movement. But Luisa was one of the leadership on creating a program for Black people. So she's starting to create like a training program as a company and said, like, we're going to create affirmative positions and courses and educational programs for Black people. This is not going to be a problem for us. If we're not finding them, we're going to educate them, build the bridges, right? Until today, there are some discussions about this, but at the time in Brazil, many people complain about that. That's just like ridiculous. Like, they shouldn't do something like that. Brazil doesn't have these problems. And honestly, I think we have many issues like this, and she was right in doing something like this. And I think in Brazil, if we see this as an example, there are many companies like Magazine Luiza that is creating today programs. I'm not going to say special, because these are educational programs, but dedicated programs, dedicated investments for minorities. So we can see these for people of color in Brazil. We can see many LGBTQIA plus educational programs to educate people to work on tech. And yeah, I think you're right, Carmen. We need to think about regulations and ways to provide this, because yeah, otherwise I don't think that everybody, it is something I didn't explore too much, but Djamila Ribeiro, which was a quote that I showed to you in the beginning, she has a really interesting saying that, like, many people have like good intentions, but good intentions doesn't make like the big difference. We need to have good actions, just intentions.
Exactly, yes. And still we are taking these technologies like they would be something external to our society, and technology is the artifact in which we embody our society and our culture. And actually, what you said, I didn't know about the Brazilian influencer, but it makes sense because the 3D generated picture, because at the end it's an image that I was mentioning. It has 3 million of followers in Instagram, her own YouTube channel, and a very high social impact in young females and young women. And we are interacting with that technology. Another tricky part of these vicious cycles is that, if you are young, or you are not reflecting enough or educating yourself enough, or you don't want to listen enough to these conversations, because we are having one of those conversations right now, you just are feeding inside yourself these products, and you are basically assimilating all these biases, and you become a part of the vicious cycle because you replicate them. This is what I was also referring at the beginning to, the very important moment of the design when you go into the persona. Because for voice interfaces, for automation of call center, we have to do it. We have to plug inside a text-to-speech solution there, and it will be a female or it will be a male, because major vendors, they don't have anything like a system voice. If I go, for example, to Amazon Poly, just for giving an example, they will give me a female voice or a male voice for different voices, for different languages, for different accents, but there is not a system voice that maybe would be the proper thing to do. Also, in order to advocate for a more transparent use for artificial intelligence, because we are not speaking with a woman, we are speaking with a system. So there I go back to the idea of ethics in AI, and really getting those ideas inside and start thinking seriously that we need legislation.
I wonder if Tara or Esha would like to add something, or we can move to the next question.
I just want to say, yeah, Carmen, I really appreciate that. I think I'm sponging it up, and I really support that. I think that, you know, in addition to the types of things that she was mentioning, also just reckoning what power we have. I think just randomly getting into this strange industry 9 years ago, I was making like robocalls for people to schedule colonoscopies, and now it's like this whole big deal with a bunch of influence, and there's not a lot of people that do this. I think that some of us who've been around a while, like, we also have the power to kind of state the terms in which we work with groups and kind of push, I don't want to say agendas, but kind of like the for good agendas, just recognizing, I think I've been sort of shocked in recent years about like, wait, if I push for this, someone might do it, and kind of understanding that and the power that we have in our own hands, as well, being kind of a niche industry.
Yeah, and adding a little to that, and also to what Carmen said about the system voice, that we either have the choice of a female or a male voice. People find that the genderless voice a little bit uncanny, but it is within our power to force this, it sounds a bit negative, to force this upon people, to have them get used to it. People, this is it. This is what you have to deal with, and this is how we get to a more inclusive society. And I definitely agree with Carmen that we should start thinking about legislation. It is a tricky topic, but for now, we should look to ourselves and recognize the power that we have and what we can do with it. On a small scale, maybe, but that's a start. That's definitely a start.
Carmen, with that, I would like to address you the next question, which is about like some of the set of best practices for gender embodiment for conversational interfaces that would help us to neutralize the biases we have in our society about the preferences of women for emotional label. So do you have a set of playbooks at Flixbox or something like this?
We have an emergent set of practices, and the first one is every time that is necessary to personificate or embody a conversational agent, we have to reflect about what we are doing. So basically, there is a moment, and it will be always a moment in design sprints in which I will involve not only the members of my team, I will involve also data scientists and business stakeholders, employer branding people, because at the end, our conversational agent is going to be our most important employee. He's going to be working 24 hours, 7 days per day. So it has to embody properly the Flix brand persona. And together we will think about what do we want to do, because if we just go for it without thinking, we will not only replicate the biases that are associated with the role that the assistant has to apply. In this case is customer care services over telephony or chat. So here the tricky point is to make everybody understand that what we are going to do is not to replicate biases. We are also going to amplify the current dynamic of genders and power that are related with the image of the agent being embodied as a woman. Because, for example, for voice, I cannot just create a system. I can do it with a text-based interface. It's as easier as call it in something neutral, in a neutral kind of name, and not giving it a gender-based name and create an emoticon for, or like an avatar for it. So for me, the most important thing is to research first. And actually what Esha said before, I disagree with that, because something that we have done is to review the literature related with customer service, relationship with different kind of voices. And something that we found in peer review papers that was very interesting was to discover that the literature, the scientific literature, of course, related to the topic is also biased. The authors of the paper were men, the participants of the experiments were also men. So they were saying, as the conclusion of the papers, like, yeah, of course, men likes to hear the voice of a woman because this is how it is in our society. Yeah, well, let's try to change that, no? So to review and to have the clues from the peer review papers, but also to think about who has assigned the value to the service historically and what economic and social goals we're trying to fulfill, because there is a political agenda behind it. And you, as an individual, as a designer, are you aligned with that? Or you are part of a minority and you want to insert another perspective? And basically, everything is about using design as a weapon to neutralize the bias. The first thing that we could do is to break the canon. Just we don't do it like this, we do it in the opposite way, or you give enough variety for different kind of interaction styles if you can have control over that. So this would be very beginning, the base of the best practices for gender embodiment.
Wow, you got me thinking about like every design decision is a political act, right? We need to be careful about this and see how we can do this. I think we have about 15 minutes for the panel. It was fast. We still have some things to ask. And also we have many questions from the audience in the comments. So I wonder if each and every one of you would like to answer some of the questions. I will give some time for you to review it, say like, hey, Kyle, I love this question here. I would like to have a take on this. Carmen, I must say, some people let a +1 for you.
I don't know what a +1 may mean out of context.
Means they like what you're saying.
They like what you're saying. That's what it means.
All right.
You're collecting all these invisible internet points.
So there is a question like from, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name, which is about, do any of you know how to pronounce? I'm just going to say the question. What do you think about the positive potential for AI social robots, especially in an educational sphere as personal tutors? How does gender factor in? Tara, I would like to have a take on this.
I love this question. And I think about this a lot in healthcare. That's really why I do what I do, is because of the positive potential of that kind of, rapport building and social expression. For example, something that I'm working on right now is a chatbot that follows someone for long-term, 8 weeks, and it is intended to help people who are experiencing overactive bladder. So like they have to pee all the time or they leak. Like this is stuff that we talk about a lot. We also covered menstruation. So I think that using a digital persona that can model a conversation that is, free of shame and stigma, that can kind of model that comfort and get people used to speaking in that way, also has amazing power. I think we've been focusing today on the downsides, which are very important to never lose sight of. But on the flip side, they can also model positive attitudes and train people in a different way that pushes back against some of the harms that we see in society. I've seen that, like I said, with bladder topics, with menstruation, even conversations about depression. I'm sure we've all seen some of the literature there that shows about conversation designs, potential within the mental health space and stigmatized topics. So I think that's really cool. And I like to think of that flip side as well.
Yeah, in Brazil, a big bank, they have an assistant, which is a female name and it's a female character. And few months ago, I guess was February, they created like a manifest about the Hey Update My Voice, the UNESCO's white paper, which is called I Would Blush If I Could, which is about the female representation regarding virtual assistants. And basically was the bank saying like, hey, we support this movement. Now, if you arrest or say something bad to this assistant, she's going to reply you back with some instructions and educational content. So you don't do that anymore. So it's an opportunity to use these automations to reinforce at least a positive behavior or help people to find educational or something that can help them. Esha, Carmen, is there any other question or would like to take a take on this question? we have so many questions in the chat.
I prefer you to pick them for us, because I'm overwhelmed by the amount of questions.
Yeah, I need to review some of them. So there is one, Nimit, I think this is how I pronounce, which is about when developing a chatbot, what impact does it make on conversation with user based on gender? Bot name, he, she, at the back end is an AI technology. So I think it's about this. Like, what is the...
This is the problem. This is the backend is an AI. It's a piece of software. It's some line of code in the cloud. It's not she. It's not he. It's it. So yeah, I will go for a transparent approach on that. And as in Europe, we have GDPR announcements before the beginning of the conversations and other privacy directiveness, I will go for a model in which we will be also telling the customer that is speaking with an assistant, because that also, in general, also helps the work of the conversational designer. In the moment when users realize that they are speaking with a system and we are not selling them the metaphor of the persona, of the persona for the software agents that is behind, they start to behave more in a way that is more friendly for the agent itself. So there are also peer review papers that show how, where people are aware that they are interacting with an assistant, they give more opportunities for repair. If you go into a fallback situation and they know that the system is deficient because they are not still perfect, they will give a second try for recovering the conversation, even a third try. If you are thinking, because this is the problem with the metaphor of the persona of AI, that people forget that they are speaking with a system, even if you say that, and after that they will rise in the level of expectations, and basically the experience will be more frustrating. So just for cover myself and for earning more points in real life and in salary, I will go for the transferring the idea to the customer that this is not she, he, they, them, or whatever is a need, it's a system.
Yeah, and also giving a bot a gender does not help with the actual task the bot has to do. But on the flip side, I like that word, Dara, flip side. There is a certain message for example, a brand that has to come across. And sometimes that message is better relayed by either a female or a male voice. For example, if they stand strongly with women's rights, then why not have the bot impersonate a female persona, or the other way around, a male persona, to strengthen the view that they support women. So there's something to say for both sides, but I do agree with Carmen that the user of the bot or the voice assistant should be completely aware that it's talking with an it and not a he or a she.
Yeah, what you just said remind me about another Brazilian bot. It's called Beta, which is a female name, but there is an interesting catch in the name, which is Beta Feminista, which is like a feminist beta, like a beta feminist, like a beta thing, which is basically a bot that lives on Messenger that tracks Brazilian regulations about female rights. So whenever they're going to vote for a particular new law, the bot can let the audience know, like, hey, we need to act now. And one interesting thing that I learned with them is that they invited 2-3 people, female people. One of them was kind of interesting because, like, hey, today it's going to be a lesbian writing the conversations. So it was a female lesbian person writing the conversations. And many people started to talk about that. Like, wow, that kind of makes sense. Like I can connect with you. And was an influencer. So it was kind of also part of the branding strategy to grow the conscience. But the audience said that they felt a little bit more connected with the content, not with she, like with as a person, but with it. But the content being written by a person that understands what she was saying kind of connects with the audience. So yeah, that was something that just come to my mind. So we have about 5 minutes to finish this panel. I wonder if we can have some closing thoughts before we finish this panel and we go. Any of you like to say something that we didn't say during this event, or bring another perspective, another idea, or another reference so the audience can reflect a little bit more? As a closing thought?
Oh, I would love to do this discussion again with you guys, of course, but also with people that are completely outside of my own zone of reference that I don't know anything about, and that will bring me new perspectives and insights. And I'm really hoping that the community will reach out to me or us and give me that insight and teach me and educate me.
Love that. I hope we stay in touch. Yeah. Like Esha said, I'm really interested in keeping the conversation going and hearing from other people about things that I haven't even thought about or touched on. I think in terms of closing thoughts, I would say, again, just to pull apart that gender in voice, in conversation design, beyond like the voice that is typically associated and the name and how that being identifies. Like there's just so much more that humans interpret about gender other than it being explicitly defined or the voice roles. I would say, you know, my mind has been blown reading from trans and gender nonconforming people about gender. I mean, there's not just two out there, there's the creativity and expansiveness, I think is personally inspiring, as well as kind of blows this concept up in terms of how it applies to work. Like, again, we made this stuff up and we can remake it in a more helpful way. Some people I follow, I really love Alok Vaid Menon and Thomas Page McBee, so really good gender thinkers. And then lastly, yeah, I really would like to stay in touch. If there's anyone that I can support who's working on things that I care about, if there's anyone who's kind of newer to this industry, please, yeah, hit me up. I'm around. I think I'm the only person with my name on LinkedIn, so please find me. And thank you so much for having me.
On my side, thank you very much, Caio, and everybody from Bot Society for having FlixBus today and having me on behalf of Flix Mobility Tech. My main takeaways, I think that for maybe all the series that you are going to dedicate is that diversity itself and diversity in gender is nothing negative about it in the industry. What we are really dealing is with the biases that we are carrying from our culture, our backgrounds, the reality of our societies into the industry, and the reality of the industry itself, that we are very, we have still a lot to do for changing and making it more diverse. And for me, it's about the social responsibility. It's about being reflective and responsible in the design decisions that we are taking, and basically rise up these topics in a way that they take a political form and they also get outside of text, and through legislations by governments will help to shape our societies in a different way. And of course, I would love to stay in touch with everybody. So, yes.
Wow. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. There are some comments like, hey, yeah, Star, my mind is mind-blowing as well. Like everybody's saying, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, to the audience that is still there, tell us what you think about this event. We do have some other events coming up, which is going to happen next week. So the next episode is going to be about language. I'm adding in the comments a link so you can find all the other events. We're going to try to make this every Thursday, starting 12 p.m. Just one event, which is the following one after the next one. That's kind of confusing. It's going to be in a different time. But yeah, on this link, you can find all the events, and then you can RSVP as well. So feel free to invite your friends, to invite everyone to join this event, or yeah, to re-watch this content later on YouTube. And yeah, so again, thank you, everybody. I hope you stay well on this crazy time, and you can take care of yourself and your family. And again, everybody that is here with me, thank you for your time and for the opportunity to be here with you. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.